Hello everyone. Another live video here for you today on the beach. And in this one we're going to be talking about how narcissists don't abuse everyone. As you may have noticed already, as you may have seen. Because I know many of you feel like you're all alone. You feel like you no longer get the attention that you were getting at the beginning when you were with the narcissist. And you look around and you see other people getting favorable treatment. They treat them special, but they don't do the same for you. And it leaves you feeling like you're left out, as though you're missing something, as though you're being robbed, as though you should have something that is rightfully yours, something that you deserve from the narcissist because you give your love and attention to them, but it's as though you're not getting it back in return, and it feels so unfair. It feels like something isn't right. But I'm here for you today to shed some light on what's really going on. Because actually, everything is not as it seems. Do not believe everything that you see. Your eyes will deceive you. They will make you believe in something that's not really real, that doesn't really exist, or that's not how you may think that it is. And that's what you've got to understand, and that's what I've got to bring to you in this video. So, I will say that narcissists, they actually don't abuse everyone. And that is the truth. That's not just an illusion. They do refrain from harming other people. And it is mostly you that they're on, mostly you that they're targeting. And there are reasons for that. There are things that you need to understand of why it plays out in that way. So for a start, all of these other people who are around the narcissist, whether it's a new source of supply, an enabler, a fly monkey, whoever it may be, they keep those people at arm's length. Those people don't get too close to them. While you're with the narcissist every day, you've seen exactly what they're like. And it's not that the narcissist has turned against you, rejected you, or because you're not good enough for whatever reason. It's nothing to do with that. This is a common misconception. People think that narcissists, especially somatic narcissists, the ones that are very attractive, the chads, they think that those types of narcissists, they're very fussy and picky, and you could be too tall, too short, too fat, too thin, too much money, not enough money. It's all a lie. Narcissists are not fussy. They will settle for anything, whatever they can find, whatever's available in that moment or on that night. Regardless of how fat or thin they are, or how short or tall, it doesn't matter. They don't care. It's got nothing to do with that. So get that out of your head now. Stop thinking in that way, because it's nothing like how they portray it to you. And what it really is, it's more to do with you rather than their supposed personal preferences. It's more about how you're reacting to them. Because notice how everything was fine before. There was no problem. The victim has all of the power. You initiate the devaluation. The only reason they stopped love bombing you is because you stopped responding favorably to it. Otherwise, they would have kept that going. They only pulled that away because it was no longer working on you. It was no longer getting them the reactions that they wanted. All they care about is reactions, narcissistic supply, fuel for the false self so that they can keep it going. And if you're not going to validate them being attractive, intelligent, or whatever else it may be, then they will begin the devaluation. They will begin abusing you, discrediting you, picking you apart, making you feel like an imposter, making you feel small. Because then by them doing that, it makes them feel powerful, omnipotent. They'd rather feel attractive and desirable to you. But if they can't get that, then they'll just settle for the devaluation. They'll settle for feeling powerful instead. Because then they still get to feel superior to most other people. But you initiated it. You had the power. And that may make you wonder then, how come other people, how are they constantly reacting positively to the love bombing and validating the false self? And it's because the narcissist keeps those people at arm's length. They don't get too close to the narcissist, so they don't see all of these negative things about them. They're not aware of the abuse, or some of them may be narcissistic or have some type of personality disorder themselves, to the point where they don't even care. They don't have the same morals or values as you do. So they're not so concerned if the narcissist is abusing someone, or if the narcissist is cheating, stealing, lying. They don't really care about that. Not as much as you do. But you may project that onto them and think that, how come other people aren't seeing it? How come other people aren't feeling that way? So other people are not responding to the narcissist in that way. They're either okay with it, or they're just not close enough to the narcissist to be aware of it. And it's kind of like how it was with you and them at the beginning. Because initially, you were under the narcissist spell. They managed to manipulate you. You were feeding into the false self. You were giving them the attention and admiration that they wanted. So you were giving them the power, the energy to continue that performance. And you may have overlooked a few red flags at the beginning. You may have been aware about something to do with their ex or their family, but they played the victim. And so you went along with it. You believed in it. So what can really help you to understand things from other people's perspectives, especially those people who maybe are not narcissistic, who are not the same as the narcissist, the best way for you to understand that, to put yourself in their shoes, is to remember how you were at the beginning with the narcissist, when you were unaware, or when you weren't so close to them. And then you will begin to see things from their perspective. Because that's really just it for a lot of them, is that they are unaware. They don't fully understand what's going on. While in some situations, yes, many of them may be narcissists as well, if they can condone that type of treatment. And so if the narcissist is not viewing them as an enemy or an opponent, then they have no reason to turn against them, devalue them, discredit them. They have no reason to do any of that. But they do with you, and this is why they become fixated on you. They become obsessed with you, because they view you as their enemy, their opponent, as someone who poses a threat to them. And that's why they then begin devaluing you. because you have this awareness about them. You've seen things from them. You no longer support their facade. And yeah, as for the favourable treatment that everyone else is meant to be getting, it's not as great as you think it is. Just remember back at the love bombing phase, when they were manipulating you, seducing you, when they were very charming. Most of that was just in your mind. I mean, there was nothing really coming from them. They were just mirroring you. They were just going off of whatever they deemed to be socially acceptable, of how they thought they were supposed to act. And most of it was what they learned from you or from past sources of supply. It was already just in your heads. You weren't really getting anything from them. It was all just a shared fantasy. Of course it was, because if it wasn't, then where are they now? Why aren't they that way with you now? Why don't they care about you when it seemed as though they did care about you at the beginning? And that's just it, because although many of you wish it was true and you want to believe in it, you want to believe that they could have been a good person just as you were a good person for them. But I can tell you that that's all that it was. It was fake. It was mostly just in your head. I mean, the only thing that was really real was you and your feelings towards them and about what you were perceiving of them. That's what was real about those interactions. Everything else was just fake. It was a performance. It was all an act. They were just doing whatever they thought they needed to do for you to get the admiration from you. That's all that it was. And that's how it's not sustainable. They can't keep it up for long. Because it's all an illusion. It's not real. And yes, that means that for everyone else as well, it's not real. And as you may see at some point, especially with the new source, what you experience with a narcissist, other people, if they haven't already, they will experience that as well. If they do get close enough to the narcissist, they are going to see that same side of them. Especially if they spend every day with them. They're going to see that same side of the narcissist. And that's really what maintains this illusion, is that they don't let other people get too close. They keep other people at a distance so that they don't see the real them. And guess what? This is the same with most people. Or really with everyone. Everyone is like this to some degree. That what you see from them in public, their public persona, it's very different to what you see when they're at home. You don't know what they're doing when they're at home, alone. They are acting very differently to how they act in public. Just as you might act very differently around your friends compared with how you may act around your parents, your family. Of course, with narcissists, it's much more extreme. But yeah, when you get close to someone, even outside of a narcissist, when you get close to them, when you're living with them every day, you see very different sides of them. They're very different to how you may have seen them initially, especially from that first meeting. And that's what I find it really funny, how they say that first impressions are everything. I mean, they're really not, because actually what I would do is the opposite. I would start off very low energy when I'm given a first impression. I wouldn't put too much effort into it. I mean, I would reveal a bit about my skills and everything. I would show a bit of my qualities for a first impression. especially if it's like a job interview or something. But I wouldn't give it my all. And the reason why is because what are you going to do after that? If you're giving it all you've got in the very beginning, where is it going to go later on? You're not going to have the energy to keep it up. And that's why I find it quite funny how they say that first impressions are everything. Because yeah, you can put all of your energy into that initial performance, into that first impression. What are you going to do later on? And this is why many narcissists, it's kind of like they just fall off, they just disappear. Because they've given it all they've got at the very beginning, and then there's nothing else for you to see. There's nothing else that they've got for you. But this is what narcissists do, is that they put all of their energy, they give everything they've got to that first impression, to maybe the first few days or the first couple of weeks of the relationship. And then after that, they've got nothing. And then you're wondering what happened to this character that you met. Where have they gone? And that's just it, they fell off. They didn't have the energy to keep it going. And that's why it's much better to just be real. Instead of putting on an act, instead of pretending to be something you're not. Because all that's going to do is leave people feeling disappointed and dissatisfied. After they've seen this initial impression of you at the beginning, and they think that it's going somewhere, but then it just kind of drops off. But this is how it is with narcissists. And this is how they can be so likable to so many people. By keeping them at arm's length. By keeping them at a distance. Because they're very good at short performances. They're good at putting on an act. They spent a lot of time studying people, learning how to behave. But then, of course, they're hiding something underneath that mask. And as I made a video before, they hate people. They don't like anyone. They feel entitled to everything from everyone, whatever they want, whenever they want it. And so they're very easily agitated. If people don't read their minds, if people don't know exactly what they want, it angers them, and then automatically they see people as being beneath them. So really they just see everyone as being beneath them because everyone is not doing exactly what they want them to do when they want them to do it. And that's why even though they present this mask to people, underneath that there is a lot of hate and resentment. And that's why when you get too close to them, it all starts to come out. And they start to bring up things from the beginning of the relationship, things you reveal to them, your flaws or things that happened from the past that they didn't really like about you, and they held on to that. And it angered them, it made them resent you for not being perfect. And they held on to it. And also things that you didn't do the exact time that they wanted you to do it. Maybe you didn't let them kiss you on the first date. Maybe you weren't intimate with them when they wanted you to be. You didn't do something that they wanted you to do. Or they may have just smiled and acted like, oh, everything's fine. It's not a big deal. But they held on to that. And underneath that mask, there is so much hate and resentment. And this is why you wonder, how can they turn against you so suddenly? Because they're holding on to all of these things from the past, acting like everything's fine. But it's still bothering them. And not just things from you, but also things from their childhoods, where they had to pretend like everything was fine. Many of these narcissists, they were taught from a young age that their emotions are not valid, that they're not allowed to feel, they're not allowed to express themselves. as though their feelings just don't matter. And this is why they don't express themselves. When they're angry, a lot of times they do just keep it to themselves and they become covert. They do things under the radar. They give you these little digs, these backhanded compliments, instead of just confronting you and telling you directly what is wrong. Because they were taught from a young age that whatever they think, it doesn't matter. It's not important. And that's why they just keep their mouths shut. This is why many of them, they don't like confrontations. Deep down, they actually feel as though they don't have a right to anything. And that's why there's always a big display of arrogance, audacity, and entitlement with them. That's why they push forward with that, to fight against their feelings of inadequacy deep down. And that's why things are rarely ever smooth with a narcissist. Everything is so forced. 124 live viewers, give it a thumbs up if you're finding this video helpful so far. Just trying to think, what is the video titled now, because I'm just getting so dizzy from all of the distractions here. All right, that's right. Yeah, why narcissists abuse other people. They abuse you rather, but not other people. Yes, they keep them at arm's length. You know, they keep them at a distance. Other people, they don't get too close. And you may think that there's something there. You may think that they have friends, they have a new source, a new intimate partner. They have people they go out to the bar with for a drink. They're having a good time with them. No, they're not. No, they're not. It looks that way. It's an illusion. There is no connection. There is no intimacy. Think back to the beginning of the relationship with the narcissist. It seemed like they were your soulmate and there was a powerful connection. There wasn't. It was all in your mind. You fed into it. You wanted to believe that it was real. And all they had to do was just go along with it. Just feed it back to you. Mirror it back to you. And it worked. It got you in with them. It got you thinking that you had something when actually you had nothing. And that's what they do with other people. All of these other people, they think they've got something. They think that something is there, something is real, something exists, when it doesn't. It has no substance, no meaning, no foundation or structure. And that's why they just have to keep feeding it. They keep feeding it to the narcissist, and the narcissist keeps reflecting it back to them. But none of it is real. And the only reason the narcissist can sustain it is because it's not all of the time. It's not every day. They keep those people at a distance. They're not vulnerable with them. They don't let them get too close. They keep up that mask. And as always with a narcissist, I mean, there's no deep conversations. There's no self-awareness. They can't tell anything about themselves. They don't know anything about themselves. They have no substance to them. They don't go deep. Many of them are very stupid. They lack emotional intelligence, critical thinking, decision-making skills. There's so many different skills they lack. They're not complete humans. And this is why many of them, they're so immature. They're so childish, and you know, that's the kind of fun that they're having with these other people. It's just very immature and very superficial. I mean, typically, if you want me to describe a typical scene of a narcissist and their friends, it's kind of like Maybe they're just at the bar together with their friends, just gawking at women or just mocking people. It's always something at someone else's expense. There has to be someone who they can mock and ridicule. There has to be. Yeah, at first I may be thinking, all right, yeah, we go out, we have a drink, go to a bar, go to a club. That may be the agenda initially. That may be the plan. But then they get there and then they get very bored. They get very tired. And then they're looking around thinking, oh, well, what's wrong here? What's wrong with people? Oh, what's wrong with this guy? What's wrong with this drink? They start looking for faults. And they will bond with their friends or with someone else over just mocking things, devaluing everything. So that's really a typical scene with a narcissist and their friends. So really there's always some form of abuse going on. There's always going to be something, because if they're with people for a certain amount of time, for several hours, there's going to be something happening where they're gossiping about you. They're talking about how bad you are or what you did, or how there's something wrong with someone else at the restaurant or at the bar. There's never going to be any inner peace, inner fulfillment, togetherness, enjoying other people's company. I mean, initially there's going to be something superficial where it's like they might compliment each other, say you're looking good, or maybe they got a new watch, they'll just compliment them on their new watch, their new car. It'd just be something stupid, something superficial like that, and then it doesn't go any deeper. And there's no like genuine deep conversations. It's all just mockery and devaluation, or just shallow superficial compliments, praise, admiration. And that's really about it. Or sometimes they bring their grandiose fantasies into it, desire. They talk about their supposed dreams that never actually actualize, but things that they wish they had or something. Or they'll brag and boast about some achievement, exaggerate it, and this is it. That's really it. And you've got to think about like this, really. I mean, how pathetic, how shallow and superficial are these other people to where they're able to sustain this side of the narcissist? It just shows what lowlifes they are. If that's good enough for them, that's as much as they need. Wasn't good enough for you though, was it? You wanted more. You had higher standards. You wanted something deeper, something more meaningful. And that's how they couldn't keep up their act with you. That's how they couldn't keep it going. Because you wanted more. You wanted something real. You wanted something genuine. And that's why they had to turn against you. That's why they had to devalue you, because it wasn't enough for you. Shallow compliments. And you having to admire them all the time. That wasn't cutting it with you. Going to bars, making fun of other people, having a laugh at their old supply or their family. It wasn't good enough for you. And that's really it a lot of times, that the quicker you fall out with a narcissist, the quicker that they devalue you, that really just speaks of your character. It just shows that you are a person of substance and depth. A person with higher standards. A person who wants more. A person who's not just going to settle for something superficial. Something that lacks substance. But I'm not knocking anyone who was able to sustain the love bombing phase with the narcissist as well. Because I can also say, I mean, you may have had a fantasy. They mirrored it back to you. And yeah, well, in some ways, it could be considered superficial. But also, you have an imagination. You have a lot of creativity. And they saw that as something desirable. They wanted to play that part. And you created that. So, even those of you who did manage to sustain the love bombing phase of the narcissist for a long period of time, explore your imagination, your creativity, the arts. That could be something that you're good at. And maybe even things to do with your emotions, because a lot of it had to do with your feelings. You weren't thinking with the logical part of your mind. You were going more off of your emotions. You were giving your emotional energy to them. So yeah, even those of you who, even though, yeah, you didn't have much depth or substance in the relationship with the narcissist, and yet you still managed to sustain it. Even those of you, I mean, many of you, you just have very creative and imaginative minds. You managed to concoct something about them that wasn't even real, and they just fed that back to you. And yeah, that too, I mean, every relationship is a fantasy anyway. No relationship is actually real from a psychological perspective. Every relationship is a fantasy. We always bring fantasy into it. But with a narcissist, of course, it's much more extreme. It's more grandiose. And that's really it with a lot of narcissistic traits. Is that a lot of it is just more extreme. It's more extreme to a point where it's not acceptable. Because at times, I mean, we can all lack empathy. We can all be relatively self-absorbed. But then, of course, there's other traits such as being exploitative. Typically, exploitation is not acceptable. But as for lacking empathy sometimes, or being self-absorbed, being in your own worlds, being focused on just something that you're doing, or maybe someone hurt you or affected you in some way, so you haven't got the time or energy to worry about someone else. That can be normal sometimes, you know, especially if you've been through abuse. So of course, when we're talking about narcissists, we're talking about extremes and something that is a consistent pattern over time, which I know that many of you have seen, many of you have witnessed from these people. It's not that they're just having a bad day. This is every day. $134 live viewers, give it a thumbs up. But yeah, I hope I've helped to shed some light on this for you. Because I know you can feel alone sometimes. You can feel like it's just you. And they make you feel like there's something wrong with you. They find something about you that they think you're insecure about, or that they think you might be insecure about, and then they just poke at it. They make you feel like you're too short, you're too tall, you're too fat, you're too thin. Or as though something is just not good about you. When actually, no, that's wrong. Narcissists, they actually go back and forth all the time. So they will be with someone who they deem to be above them, And then what happens is they get bored of that. And then the next time they will downgrade. And that's so many of you who have been with narcissists, you then see them go down, you see them downgrade. They will go with someone who's fat or short or whatever they deem to be less than you. Someone with less money. Because it becomes boring. That supply is no longer as potent. And then after that person, then they try and come back to you. Because they re-idealize you again. And this is a common pattern that you will see among narcissists. Is that they could be with the best of the best. They could be with a billionaire supermodel. And then the next type of source they look for is just a bum with no job who lives in their mother's basement. This is a common pattern that you will see among narcissists, is that they do go back and forth. And that's how many of you have seen the narcissist downgrade, because you were that source that they put on a pedestal. And I will do a separate video about this, of how they go back and forth between someone they put on a pedestal and then someone who they really know is beneath them, but then they see it as a sense of power and control over them, as someone that they own. So I will do an entire video on that, because I have so much to say about it. But yeah, it's nothing to do with that, with you. I mean, especially those of you who have found these videos. There's a reason why this content resonates with you. Because at one point, you were very important to the narcissist. They viewed you as someone very special. It was as though their world revolved around you. And then they make it seem like there's something wrong with you. But no, they don't care. I mean, if you just look at a narcissist's Instagram, do you think they care about who's liking their pictures? Who's commenting on them? They don't care who it is. As long as they're getting attention from someone. But with you, it was more that they put you on a pedestal. You were a grade A source. They really loved your attention and admiration. But really, you know, they're not fussy at all. Yes, of course, you know, if they can get it, they like to have the best of the best. They like to have someone who looks perfect, has tons of money to give to them, everything. They like to have that type of person under their control. That would be their ideal scenario. And they try to get that. But typically, the more powerful, the more successful, the more attractive you are, it's not going to work. It's not going to last long. Unless you're the type of person who's, if you're narcissistic yourself, although I'm sure many of you aren't, but if it's two narcissists together, especially if they're grandiose, it can work because they bond together over targeting people outside of the relationship. That's how that works. But if you're an empath and you're attractive and successful, it's just not going to work. It's not going to last for long. And then yes, they will downgrade and just find someone who they can have that control over. So that's typically how it goes. But then also, of course, there's the factor of the fantasy. I mean, if you are a attractive and successful person, and while you're not narcissistic, but maybe you do fantasize, maybe you brought a lot of emotion to the relationship, then yeah, it can last for long then as well. Because you're going off of emotion. You're not thinking about it logically. You're not thinking about the harm that they could do to you. You're not thinking about how dangerous they are, how toxic they are. Instead, you're just going along with the false self. So that's how that tends to last for long as well. But yeah, I mean, so the type of person who's going to leave immediately, the type of person who's just going to get out of there as soon as possible with a narcissist, is someone who is highly successful, highly attractive, and not emotional, but rather logical, using reasoning. That type of person is just not going to go well with them at all. Someone who is highly attractive, highly successful, and logical. That type of person as well, if they do remain around a narcissist for too long, it can cause a lot of damage to them. Because they are the opposite of the narcissist. Someone who's confident in their physical appearance, their success, and they're logical, while the narcissist is emotional. It does not go well together. So that's not going to last for long. And that's how it's really best just to be logical around those people. Because people can manipulate your emotions. They can get you involved in things that you never wanted to be a part of, using your emotions or fantasy. And this is why it's very important to stay grounded in reality. Don't get sucked into the emotions too much. Let me know if you've got any questions on the live chat. I'm just out here walking on the sand. I already went for a swim. Christopher Jones says, beautiful beach, Chris. I'm glad you like it. Yeah, I did say I was going to come to the beach again. This is my first time coming to this beach. I know a lot of you like my beach videos. I've noticed every time I do a video on the beach, I seem to get 2 to 3 times more views. So I try and do a beach video as much as I can. I know you all just like to see me happy and free. Of course, you know, that's what we want for anyone who's been through hurt, been through abuse. We want to see them happy. We want to see them moving on. We want good things for them. But actually be aware that that is a trigger for narcissists. They want to see victims stuck. They don't ever want to see you healing or moving on. RC asks, was the good loving moments fake with them? Yes, they were fake. I don't know, I've seen from other channels, one in particular, Mental Healness. I know Lee, he says that it can be real, or that narcissists can actually love you and stuff, but I don't agree with that at all. From my research and experience, if we're talking about a full-blown narcissist, someone with NPD, they cannot experience love. They cannot experience emotional depth. None of it is real. It is all fake. The higher they are on the spectrum, the more fake that it is. Now with a narcissist, someone with full-blown NPD, they are kind of in it, but they're not really in it with you. They're just in it on their own and about how amazing they are. And then when you go higher up the spectrum into sociopathy and psychopathy, then they're actually outside of it. And you're in the fantasy on your own. So the higher up the spectrum you go, the more fake that it is. With someone who just has maybe a few narcissistic traits, it could be relatively real. There could actually be some form of love there. Let's eat food and work out. Says you have helped me more than you will ever know. Thank you. I'm really glad to hear that. Thank you for the encouragement. Tiffany Davis says, oh wow, I'd love to be there. Yeah, I'm enjoying it here. The sun and the sand, the sea. It's all good for me. Who knows, maybe one day we will do a meetup. We'll meet together somewhere near the sea. We'll sit on the beach and toast vegan marshmallows and just talk about relationships and life. Devolved asks, what's the difference between a narcissist and a borderline? I haven't actually done too much research on borderlines. A channel I would recommend for you is David DeMar's Coaching. He's really an expert on borderline personality disorder. But yeah, many of you may be dealing with borderlines as well. Narcissistic personality disorder and borderline are often comorbid. So if you're dealing with a narcissist, you're likely dealing with someone who has borderline traits as well. Same thing if you're dealing with a borderline. They're likely to have narcissist traits. Geneva Cordoba says water is healing. Yeah, I'm all about the healing for me. Just healing and moving forward. I'm just all about promoting good health, not going backwards. I'll just leave everyone else there. Leave all the narcissists there. I'm going forwards. Because as you know, they can't come with us. Ellie Wynn says, no love in them. They can perform only. Yeah, it's all a performance with them. It's performative empathy. It's not genuine. Sandra Loeb says, malignant are on their own spectrum. Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, in psychology, they are all on the same spectrum. But I would say that once you get to a malignant narcissist, it's very different. Just as someone with narcissistic traits is very different from someone with full-blown NPD. But even someone with full-blown NPD is very different to a malignant narcissist. Because a person with full-blown NPD, they lack self-awareness. They lack awareness of their behaviors. They're not really going out of their way to harm people. They may hurt people along the way, and some of them may be aware that they're hurting people, but that's not their objective. It's just something they have to do to get the result that they want. While a malignant narcissist, who is even higher up the spectrum, their objective is to hurt you. That's what they're trying to do. And especially sociopaths and psychopaths. So this is how you know the difference. A narcissist doesn't mean to hurt you. They're not trying to. It's something that just happens as a result of them trying to achieve their objective. It is the malignant narcissists, sociopaths and psychopaths. They're the ones who are targeting you specifically to cause harm to you. Samadrita Mitra asks, are narcissists like psychopaths, like they can't feel normal human emotions? They all have emotions to some degree, not to the extent that we do. I mean, I often say that they're emotionally dead, they can't feel anything, because they can barely feel anything. Like their idea of happiness and joy is nothing like ours. They lack emotional depth, and their emotions are constantly fleeting. They're disconnected from their emotions. They don't understand their emotions. And they're constantly just running from themselves. If they were to accept themselves and to connect to their emotions, they would feel nothing but shame. Nothing but feelings of inadequacy. But they constantly try to run from it through escapism, through fantasy. They're constantly seeking a thrill. They're seeking narcissistic elevation. So it's not that they don't feel anything. What would be a better way to put it is to say they're trying not to feel anything. They're trying not to reflect on their shame. They're doing everything they can to avoid experiencing that. So that's how I would describe it. And anything else they're doing, whether it's they're love bombing someone, they're seeking a thrill, they're devaluing someone, mocking them, it's all just tools to avoid reflecting on their true emotions. And anything else is just a false self. It's just narcissistic supply. Narcissistic supply, those are not their real emotions. It's disconnection. Bobby Joe Brown says MPD, different ball game. Oh, it is. I mean, I've met many people who are narcissistic. I've seen people who actually have the full-blown narcissistic personality disorder, and it is completely different. It's just crazy how they behave. It's like they really have no self-awareness. And just out in the open, in public, they can behave that way. And they're so grandiose, they're so full of themselves, there's just nothing you can tell them. You can't bring them into reality. You can't have a conversation with them. Unless it's about how wonderful they are. It's really crazy when you come across someone with NPD. Christopher Jones says, mine was histrionic too. Yeah, histrionics are very dramatic. They're very emotional, manipulative. Think Regina George from Mean Girls. That's an excellent example of a histrionic. And many of them may be somatic narcissists as well. Regine Benjamin says they seem detached more than anything, unconcerned. Yet everything with narcissists is all about detachment. It's all about, what have I got to do? How have I got to affect this person so that I can remain detached in this moment from myself and my emotions? Well, of course, all we're trying to do is connect. But you can't do that around narcissists. They want you to be unaware of yourself, disconnected from yourself and your emotions. They don't want you to be aware of who you are. They don't want you to have a sense of self. Because if you have a sense of self, then they have a sense of self, which means that they feel inadequate. They're doing everything they can to run away from themselves. So constantly in the mind, all they're ever thinking about throughout the day is, what do they have to do? How do they have to affect people, whether it's in a positive or negative way, so that they can then disconnect from themselves? Well, as for us, it's like all we want to do is be ourselves. I mean, initially, maybe at the love bombing phase, escapism can be fun sometimes for a short amount of time. But with narcissists, it goes on for such a long time. And it's just like, when is this going to end? I mean, it's all right sometimes to engage in fantasy, to watch a movie or something. But it's permanent with a narcissist. They never want to come back into reality. They never want to be serious. They never want to have a genuine, deep conversation with you about anything. And they're just always so immature. And nothing ever gets done with them. It's always just like one step forward, two steps back. Because they're constantly just playing games. They're constantly manipulating people. That's all that they do. It's all that they can do. But yeah, I think that's good for this video. Answered a few questions. And I'm going to go and get something to eat and finish working on my next video, which will be up within the next 12 hours, which is titled, Why Survivors of Narcissists Have Clutter. So yeah, it's a very interesting video, which I'm looking forward to share with you. But yeah, if you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up. Let me know your thoughts about what I've said to you in the comment section down below. If you're new here, subscribe. Click on notifications, that way you will be notified when I upload new videos or go live again. Your donations are greatly appreciated, no matter how small. You can donate to my PayPal. It's paypal.me/Narc Survivor. If you would like guidance and support on your healing journey, you're welcome to book a one-on-one with me. go to my website. It is narcsurvivor.co.uk. And also you can see on my Instagram, I'm posting every day content from my trip last year to Bali. And also I'm uploading every day to my stories, my trip here in Bohol in the Philippines. So if you're not following me on Instagram, you can follow me. It's Narc Survivor YouTube. All right, that's it here today from the beach here. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you all for your support. And I look forward to talking with you in another one very soon.